My name is Haley Daugherty, and the scene I chose is from Charles Dickens' Bleak House, chapter 29. This scene presents a moment of great tension and introduces the first climax of the novel, which is the fact that Esther Summerson is Lady Dedlock's daughter. In this scene, Mr. Guppy is hoping to get Esther to reconsider his marriage proposal by going to see Lady Dedlock and trying to connect her to Esther. By connecting Lady Dedlock to Esther, Mr. Guppy can then tie Esther to the Jarness and Jarness case, which he hopes will put him in Esther's good favor. Mr. Guppy begins asking Lady Dedlock about her relation to Esther, which eventually leads to Lady Dedlock's realization that Esther Summerson is her daughter. My lady turns a little around and says, "You had better sit down." "Thank your ladyship," says Mr. Guppy. "Quite satisfactory. Now, dash it. The fact is that I put down a head or two here of the order of the points I thought of touching upon, and they're written short, and I can't quite make out what they mean." He murmurs, growing warm and red, and holding the slip of paper now close to his eyes, now a long way off. "CS. What's CS for? Oh, ES. Oh, I know. Yes, to be sure," and comes back enlightened. "I'm not aware," says Mr. Guppy, standing midway between my lady and his chair, "whether your ladyship has ever happened to hear of, or to see, a young lady of the name of Miss Esther Summerson." My lady's eyes look at him full. "I saw a young lady of that name not long ago, this past autumn." "Now, did it strike your ladyship that she was like anybody?" asked Mr. Guppy, crossing his arms, holding his head on one side, and scratching the corner of his mouth with his memoranda. My lady removes her eyes from him no more. "No." "Not like your ladyship's family?" "No." "I think your ladyship," says Mr. Guppy, "can hardly remember Miss Esther Summerson's face." "I remember the young lady very well. What has this to do with me?" "Your ladyship, I do assure you that having Miss Summerson's image imprinted on my art, which I mention in confidence, I found such a resemblance between Miss Esther Summerson and your ladyship's own portrait that it completely knocked me over, so much so that I didn't at the moment even know what it was that knocked me over, and now I have the honor of beholding your ladyship near, it's really more surprising than I thought it." My lady, slowly using her little hand screen as a fan, asks him again what he supposes that his taste for likenesses has to do with her. "Your ladyship," replies Mr. Guppy, again referring to his paper, "I am coming to that. Dash these notes. Oh, Mrs. Chadband, yes." Mr. Guppy draws his chair a little forward and seats himself again. My lady reclines in her chair composedly, though with a trifle less of graceful ease than usual, perhaps, and never falters in her steady gaze. Stop a minute, though." Mr. Guppy refers again. "ES twice? Oh, yes. Yes, I see my way now. Right on." Rolling up the slip of paper as an instrument to point his speech with, Mr. Guppy proceeds. "Your ladyship, there is a mystery about Miss Esther Summerson's birth and bringing up. I'm informed of that fact because, which I mention in confidence, I know it in the way of my profession at Kenge and Cobboys. Now, as I have already mentioned to your ladyship, Miss Summerson's image is imprinted on my art. If I could clear this mystery for her, or prove her to be well related, or find that having the honor to be a remote branch of your ladyship's family, she had a right to be made a party in Jarness and Jarness, why, I might make a sort of claim upon Miss Summerson to look with an eye of more dedicated favor on my proposals than she has exactly done as yet, in fact, as she hasn't favored them at all." A kind of angry smile just dawns upon my lady's face. "Now, it's a very singular circumstance, your ladyship," says Mr. Guppy, "though one of those circumstances that do fall in the way of us professional men, that I have encountered the person who lived as servant with the lady who brought Miss Summerson up, before Mrs. Jarness took charge of her. That lady was a Miss Barbary, your ladyship." Is the dead color on my lady's face reflected from the screen which has a green silk ground, and which she holds in her raised hand as if she had forgotten it, or is it dreadful paleness that has fallen on her? "Did your ladyship," says Mr. Guppy, "ever happen to hear of Miss Barbary?" "I don't know. I think so, yes." "Was Miss Barbary at all connected with your ladyship's family?" My lady's lips move, but they utter nothing. She shakes her head. "Not connected," says Mr. Guppy. "Oh, not to your ladyship's knowledge, perhaps. Ah, but might be, yes." After each of these interrogatories, she's inclined her head. "Very good. Now, this Miss Barbary was extremely close, and my witness never had an idea whether she possessed a single relative. On one occasion, and only one, she seems to have been confidential to my witness on a single point, and she then told her that the little girl's real name was not Esther Summerson, but Esther Hardin." "My God!" Mr. Guppy stares. Lady Dedlock sits before him, looking him through, with the same dark shade upon her face, in the same attitude, even to the holding of the screen, with her little lips a little apart, her brow a little contracted, but, for the moment, dead.